Like, I can't believe Tracy Beaker and Justine went from fighting over who broke a clock to Justine getting pregnant by Tracy's fiance. Like, what the frick is going on? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jam. I enjoy talking about all things TV and books, and I'm very big on nostalgia content, which is why today I want to talk about my favorite shows that were on CBBC. I am recording this video on my iPad, so if things look weird, it's because of that. If you're watching this video and you don't know what CBBC is, CBBC was a British children's TV channel that was free for us to watch, and we were watching it before school and after school because the shows that came on that channel was so entertaining. The first show I want to talk about is The Story of Tracy Beaker. I'm also going to include Tracy Beaker Returns and The Dumping Ground in the first one because it's part of the same franchise. The Story of Tracy Beaker is based on a book written by Jacqueline Wilson, another icon in our childhood. The things that she wrote about in her books, there were so many different situations, so many crazy things that happened that I still think about. I'm planning to do some videos on each of those books, so look out for that. The Story of Tracy Beaker, we follow Tracy. She lives in a care home. She's this little girl and she does not take anything from everyone. She's always screaming bug off, she's always fighting with people, and we see the different foster parents that she has because at the end of the day they're in care and they're hoping to get fostered or adopted by people. But Tracy, she's going through a hard life, right? And we see the other characters and all the different feuds that she has. Her main biggest one, the biggest feud that she has, is her feud with Justine Littlewood. I have a whole video about that, from the Story of Tracy Beaker all the way to the Beaker Girls, which is the recent spin-off of Tracy Beaker's life, and they are still fighting. Like, I can't believe Tracy Beaker and Justine went from fighting over who broke a clock to Justine getting pregnant by Tracy's fiance. Like, what the frick is going on? Across all these three shows, The Story of Tracy Beaker Returns, and The Dumping Ground, we meet a lot of other kids in care, and we see them being like regular kids. Like, they're regular kids, they're having fun and everything, but their backstories are really sad, and we get to find out about them as the shows go on. Like Johnny and T from The Dumping Ground, like their stepdad was really abusive to them. Tracy, her mom, she would tell everyone, my mom's a movie star, she's gonna come back for me, but her mom had her when she was younger and she would leave her alone at home. She would go out partying with her friends, she will have different boyfriends that would come to the house and they were horrible to Tracy, which is something that gets brought up later on because he made her eat a worm, and Tracy's having flashbacks to him doing that to her, and then she eats a worm on her dad, and then she eats a worm again to prove that she did eat a worm on her dad. In Tracy Beaker Returns, Tracy's an adult in this situation, right? And I don't understand how she was a care worker. First thing, she's getting arrested. Next thing you know, she's back at the care home and she's working as a care worker. But there were so many situations where kids could have died on her watch, or she was acting like the kid herself. But very entertaining shows. I'll go into a deep dive of these shows later on, so look out for that as well. So I have a new kitten. He's currently on my lap, so if you hear purring or meowing, it's him. Like, he is wanting all my attention right now. This next show I give so much credit to when it comes to my love for vampire media, and that is Young Dracula. Young Dracula changed my life. So in Young Dracula, we follow the Dracula family who moved to Wales after being run out of Transylvania. So they come to Wales and we focus on Vlad, the son of Dracula, the heir of Dracula. And he wants to be a regular boy, but he can't because he's a vampire. So it's his coming of age story, kind of. We follow him from season 1 to season 2, all the back and forth of how he just wants to be a regular boy, but he can't. And we see as he becomes the chosen one in the vampire world. And then the show kind of gets cancelled after season 2, and then it comes back for a season 3. Vlad is much older. After being chosen as the chosen one, he doesn't want to accept this fate. His dad is trying to do everything to get him to accept it. We get more into more darker themes and serious topics, like we meet other vampires. Everything is just darker from season 3 onwards, right? We learn that Vlad is actually half human, half vampire, and he's given the choice. If he walks into the sun, he can become a full human, or if he stays in the shadows, he'll become a full vampire. So good, so good. Vlad has a sister called Ingrid. The way she was treated in this show, the things that she did to betray her family, I would have done much worse. Because what do you mean that you're gonna treat her so horribly because she's a girl, and you're gonna praise Vlad for jumping off a table, and you're gonna claim that he actually flew, my son flew, and give him money, and just say to Ingrid, dismiss her because she's a girl, she has no worth to you. The next show is The Sarah Jane Adventures, which is a spin-off of the show Doctor Who, but it was made for children. We follow Sarah Jane Smith, who was one of the Doctor's companions, and she now lives by herself. She's gone on all these adventures. The kids in her neighborhood join her. to fight these aliens, to protect the Earth. She finds out that she comes across this boy in a pod who has no belly button called Luke, and she adopts him as her son. And it was such a good show. The day that we found out that the actress who played Sarah Jane, Elizabeth Sladen, passed away, it was a very sad day in my household. The one episode I remember so clearly from this show is whatever happened to Sarah Jane. In this episode, Sarah Jane no longer exists. The only person who remembers her is one of her companions, Maria, because she gave her this box the night before and it protected her memory. Sarah Jane gets erased from the world. There's another woman called Andrea that lives in her house, and Maria's wondering what happened to Sarah Jane. Like, who is this woman? This woman, Andrea, is Sarah Jane's friend. When Sarah Jane and her were young, they were walking in the pier one day and Andrea fell off the pier and she passed away. And it put Sarah Jane on this trajectory of becoming the savior to the earth, right, to the world. And then Andrea, in that moment, the trickster who just wanted chaos in this world. And if Sarah Jane was out of the picture, there'll be a lot of chaos because she's not there to protect everyone. He goes back in time, offers Andrea a chance. He says, I will switch you on Sarah Jane. Like, she'll be the one to die. You can live. And she accepts because she's a 14-year-old girl. She's really scared. She doesn't want to die. She has a whole life ahead of her. And it was just a really sad episode. When I was younger, I watched it. I was thinking, how could she do this? How could she do this to Sarah Jane? But watching the episode back as an adult, I kind of understood, because what child wants to die? They have their whole life ahead of them. And if they're given a chance, like, yeah, you can live, but your friend's gonna die. I kind of understood why she did it, but when I was younger, I did not understand why she did it at all. This next show was The Society, before The Society was even a thing on Netflix. The Sparticle Mystery. This show, sci-fi, we're set in a world where everyone over the age of 15 disappears. No one knows what happened to them. Now we're in this world where there's just people under the age of 15 just messing around and playing around, causing chaos everywhere, forming little gangs and stuff. We follow our main group, who's led by this boy called Sadiq, and they're getting around in a police van and they're trying to figure out like how to bring the adults back and what actually happened. There's some kids in this world, they're called sensitives. They have psychic powers. The one girl, Reese, she's communicating with Dora, who's an adult on a different dimension. We find out they were taken to a different dimension, and she's trying to tell them how to fix a problem and bring everyone back. So they have to figure out where all these kids who are sensitives are and bring them together. The craziest thing about this show is that this was the first time I've ever seen teen pregnancy on a show, and it was on CBBC. This show, we have one of the characters, this girl called Kat, I believe her name was, and Ernesto. Ernesto's played by the guy who plays Vlad in Young Dracula. They meet each other and they get together, things happen, and she's really ill, and the kids are figuring out like what's going on with her. They take her to this boy who's supposed to be a healer, a psychic healer. He's like, there's nothing wrong with you, you're pregnant. Shocking news, because we're watching a 14-year-old girl be pregnant and give birth on CBBC. This next one, I don't think a lot of people remember, or they have seen it, they just forgot the name, and that is Dead Gorgeous. Dead Gorgeous, we follow these three sisters. They're from the Victorian age. One day they're going on a carriage ride. The carriage, there's an accident and they end up dying. Then they're like, this is not fair. Like, we're young. Like, we shouldn't have had to die. We have a whole life ahead of us. The Ghost Council makes a deal with them, and they're like, okay, we'll send you back to your house, but it's 150 years from their time now. And their house is a boarding school for all these kids. And they come back, and they have this woman who's like their mentor, trying to help them to get accustomed to this world, but it's a struggle for them. We see them dealing with the fact that they've just come back and they're ghosts, but people can see them. They're like living ghosts. They're ghosts, but people can still see them, right? And they're dealing with the fact that they'll have their own issues going on. They've been dead. They're 150 years in the future. Their parents are not there. And then on top of that, they're dealing with these teenagers and the issues that's affecting them. And the girls are really different from what they were taught to be like back in those days. And it was just a good show. It was a really good show. This next one, I don't think a lot of people remember as well, and that is Paradise Cafe. Paradise Cafe was set in New Zealand. We follow a group of teenagers, and we've learned that the island that they live on, back in the day, there was this ghost, this sea ghost that gets trapped. He was trying to destroy the island. He gets trapped by the hero of the story, and then years have passed now. He wants to escape his prison. He's called Ragnar. Ragnar wants to escape his prison, and what he does is send his ghost out to figure out who is the reincarnation of the guy who trapped him in like the prison, because that's the only way he can escape the prison. And the reincarnated person is part of this group of 5. So these ghosts will come back out of the ocean. They will try to figure out who it is, and the ghosts are like people from everywhere, people who've died at sea. And the only way to tell that they were a ghost is you have to look at them through water. So they will be looking at them through the fish tank when people come in to see if they're a ghost or if it's like a regular human. And it was just really good because there was this one of the girls called Chloe, and she was part of the group, and she was really nice. She's a bit weird. Like I don't understand why they didn't understand like she wasn't from that time, because she spoke very olden. I don't know what era she was from. I can't remember, but she was there. And then later on, we find out that she's a ghost. Shocking turn of events. But this show, amazing. I loved it. I might rewatch this show actually if I can find any episodes on YouTube. This next one I think people also don't remember, and that is Sadie J. Sadie J, the theme song went something along the lines of, can somebody explain to me why I'm always surrounded by boys? And the whole song was about how they don't really understand her, and that's what the show was about. Sadie J, she lived with her brother and her dad. He was a single father who was raising her, and they didn't really understand her. They were into like manly things. The dad was a mechanic, and she was trying to deal with school. She's trying to deal with having a boyfriend and boys and stuff. And then on top of that, the diner that she goes to all the time, there was this girl that worked there, and she would be bullying her all the time. I saw that they have all the episodes on YouTube. I will be watching this show, and I will talk about it later on. This next one had me behaving crazily in school, and that is MI High. MI High was set in a school, and we followed these kids who are spies. They are part of MI High, which is like an MI6 branch, but they use kids to do their spy missions, and if there's a threat to the world, they would get their pencils. Their pencils would light up, and they'll be like, okay, it's time for a mission. They'll just leave the classroom. They'll be like, oh, I need to go to the toilet. Oh, I have to go do this. They'll go to the janitor's closet, pull the broomstick, and it'll be like a lift, and the janitor was like their handler, their boss, and it was just really good. I used to think, wow, I could do this. I could do these missions. We used to be in school pretending that our pencils was actually a communicator, which that's what the show was. Their pencils was their communicators. They'll be holding the pencil to their ear and talking to each other. And this show, amazing. Blame, yeah, blame. This next one wasn't a British show, but it was a show that was on CBBC. It was a Canadian show called The Next Step. We followed these dancers at the Next Step dance studio as they're preparing for their dance competitions, competing in these competitions, coming up with dance routines. But the most important part for me was the drama that was going down in this studio. Emily and Michelle, crazy. The way that they would fight over this boy called Eldon, they would be fighting for no reason at all, but it was very entertaining to me. This one episode where this girl Chloe, and she was poor, she had to work literally she had to work in order to pay for her classes, her to be part of this dance group, right? Someone steals money, and they're like, well, Chloe, she's poor, she can't even afford to be here, she's the one that stole the money. That was crazy. But this show, I loved it. Also the romances, oh, is this gonna happen? Emily's sister, is she gonna get with James? Oh my god, are they gonna be a couple? Who's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? The different triangles, love triangles that was going on. Very entertaining for a children's TV show. The final one I want to mention for this video is Nowhere Boys. This show was an Australian show that was on CBBC, and we followed these 4 boys who are very different from each other, belong to very different like social groups at school. One day they go on a school trip and they end up being in the same group. They get lost in the forest, right? And then all of a sudden when they go back home, no one knows who they are because they get caught in a storm. Like, no, a tornado, a twister, is that what they call it? They got caught in that, and when they go back home the next day, no one knows who they are. People are screaming at them saying, get out of my house. Their own family don't recognize them. They meet up again, they're like, oh my god, where are we? They find themselves in a parallel, like an alternate world, and then they find out that they have powers. They have like earth, fire, wind, water, and it was so good because later on when we find out that the reason why they even ended up going into this different world where they're now fighting demons is because Felix wanted to change things so his brother wasn't paralyzed, because he blames himself for what happened to his brother. Amazing show. After the main 4 people that I was used to ended up leaving, I didn't finish the rest of the show because the other characters, they didn't really stick out to me. But I might go back and watch it and then make my final decision on what I think of the show fully. But the one with the main 4 boys, 10 out of 10. Those are the shows I could think of from the top of my head when I think about what I loved watching on CBBC. What did you think? Like, did you watch these shows? If not, like, what were your favorite shows on CBBC if you did watch CBBC? Or what was your favorite childhood show? Let me know. I do have a lot of videos planned where I want to talk more on the TV shows I mentioned and other TV shows and some books by Jacqueline Wilson and other books. So hopefully that content will be entertaining for you guys and you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Give me a like and a subscribe, and final words from my kitten, Rio. Anything? yeah, he said thank you for watching and make sure you like and subscribe. See you in the next one.